Yay! Hello, everyone. It's Nicole and Dana. Pronounced Dana, not Dana. Very important for you to know. Welcome. And today we're going to talk about something super important, growing a Facebook community, because you are the mom boss of growing Facebook communities. You've got a massive community and they're really engaged too. So before we dive into that, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, and why you decided to start a community? Like, what made you decide to do that?
Yeah, well, I would say hi, by the way. Thanks for
Hello.
having me. Anybody who has a hard time, just say Dana Banana, solves
Yep.
all the problems.
Perfect.
And here's the thing, whether you're a kid, and for my entire audience who has kids, whether they're young or grown up or, or somewhere in the middle, we remember when we were kids doing something that we loved and then being told that it was weird or crazy or silly or dumb, right? We all remember that. We remember how awkward, I don't know about you, but I hated high school. It was awkward. It was horrible.
Yeah.
I was a complete dork. And if I were now, when I'm tapping 40, I would go back to high school and be like, I'm the coolest dork around. Like I wear my dorkdom like it's the awesomest thing that ever happened. And I truly believe that.
Mm-hmm.
But back then I didn't. And when I had a baby, I thought I was crazy, right? Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have my baby home with me all the time. I don't want to do these things. I don't want to, quit my job and stay at home all the time. I want my kid to, I had a kid so that I could pay for somebody else to help me raise them,
Yes.
and I don't want to feel like that was a bad decision or I'm a bad person, but I felt that way. And it made me realize after a period of time that we all just want to hang around people that don't think we're crazy. There's a North Face campaign that they did that a friend of mine, Mark Schaefer, does in all of his presentations. And he talks about this idea of this sort of more grassroots marketing, right? The Marketing Rebellion is a book that he has that's done really well. And that's this idea that they show people with frostbite and climbing mountains and doing all these things. And it says, crazy over the top. And then underneath it shows flips it and it says brave. Right. And the campaign basically visually tells you, hang out with the people that think you're brave, not the people that think you're crazy. So when it comes to me starting a community, it was because I was surrounded by people that made me think I was crazy.
Yes.
I was pregnant and I quit my job, and my in-laws and everybody else was like, well, you got to go get a job. Like, what do you mean you're going to have a baby without a job?
Mm-hmm.
I am going to have a job. It's going to be my business. But yeah, that doesn't actually work, right? Every time I had an idea, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go coach. Coaching, is that a thing? Do people get paid doing that thing? The moment I stopped hanging around with the people that made me feel like my decisions were bad and I was a crazy person, and made me feel like I was brave and I was charting a path for me, my family, and the rest of, the community, I started feeling empowered and excited. And the Boss Mom community was my way of going, I need this. I bet you need this. And it was obviously true. Now, the reason it's grown so well, I think, is because of the way I believe about community, people, behavioral economics, my past experiences and all of those things. But the reason I created it was because we should all feel like we are worthy of hanging around people that make us feel like we're awesome.
And I think moms that work, especially, like, we have this certain, like, the moms that don't work or don't have to work or don't want to work, all of those moms are like, oh, well, how could you be away from your kids? Don't you want to be with your kids all the time, 100% of the time? And it's like, there's always somebody that's judging. Always.
Yeah, well, we all judge. I mean, that's the thing, is that if we deny the fact that our brain, scientifically, our brain needs to categorize things so that we can make decisions faster. It is a protective mechanism, right? I do not have a degree in this, but I have read books that have told me such things. So that's my disclaimer, right? But our brain needs to categorize things. So we judge in the beginning to protect ourselves, right? Is this safe? Should I go forward? So we make sweeping generalizations to protect ourselves. We just allow ourselves to go the step farther, and whoever we're hanging out with depicts how we just. So when you talk about community building, I tell people one of the most important parts of your community is deciding what the culture is and what the rules are, what those boundaries are, just like a parenting thing. And how are you going to create the boundaries for your kids? Because there's more freedom. And they've done a study about this. Oh gosh, where did I hear this study? Where they had dogs that could that were out, and they could play anywhere they wanted, but they stayed within a very small perimeter of their owner.
Mm.
They put a fence up, and all of a sudden the dogs went and played everywhere because they knew exactly what their boundaries were. And that's
Mm.
how people work and children work too. We think I'm taking away your freedom by creating boundaries. Well, you're not. What you're doing is you're telling people how far they can go without asking, right? So that they feel freedom to explore within the boundaries. And we have to know what those are, because if we don't, then all of that judging and things start to happen. And then there's uncertainty and there's resentment and there's anger. And especially when you're online, intent does not travel across text.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It
Like,
does
how many
not.
times have you gotten an email where it was all caps and you were like, why is this person yelling at me?
Why are you yelling?
Right? Or they said, I don't mean to be disrespectful. And you're like, well, they're about to be in your face. Right? Like, whatever that, like, you put, my dad used to say, if you have the urge to do anything in all caps, put any kind of exclamation point anywhere, or if you're putting an ironic emoji, you need to step away.
Hey, I use
Cool off for 5
exclamation
minutes.
points a lot. I'm very excited when I type. But it's so true though. It is. It's people get offended because they think you're trying to say something. And I mean, you your group is filled with so many different kinds of people that it's just impossible. And you were just talking about the rules. One of your rules was it no politics and no religion, right? And great rule, by the way. Obviously, I completely agree with that. When you have so many different kinds of people in one place, nobody is going to agree. It's going to start something. And I see that in a lot of other groups that have a lot of numbers. They don't have that rule. And then it's just like hundreds and hundreds of comments of people just being so rude to each other because you have a difference.
Well, there's a book called Essentialism, which I read recently and then realized I've been living a lot of this for most of my life, like how I built my business. And then there are things that I knew I wasn't living because I was like a recovering non-essentialist, so to speak. But one of the things that it talks about from life and business is really applicable to how we grow our communities, how we grow because your business is still people, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not just building stuff. Our business is like, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, does it actually fall? Well, the answer is who cares,
Doesn't
right?
matter.
So if
Yeah.
you're doing stuff and people aren't involved, is it really happening? And the fact is who cares? Nobody knows you built the thing, so
Exactly.
it doesn't really matter. And so when we're looking at communities, it's focus, right? We have to focus. I am not telling people in our group that religion and politics don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying in order for this group to function the way I want it to, in order for this community to get the amazing work and amazing results that we can get and help raise each other up,
Mm-hmm.
then we have to singularly focus on how we are growing businesses while managing the life of parenting. Where's the duality, right? And it's not like just a regular normal entrepreneur group. There's a group about how do we think tank how to live dual priorities in our lives. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the focus, which means I have to proactively, and I've gotten emails that say I'm stymieing religious freedom, right? And I'm like, okay, well, that's okay. I will be that scapegoat for people if I need to be. And we should all recognize that part of being a leader is assuming that energy of people and just recognizing that it's part of the way things work. Just like when our kids are jerk faces, and it doesn't mean them bad humans, they just had a bad day, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But the focus has to be there, because if I let religion and politics be in there, then I wouldn't be able to create a focus, and people would be confused about what the group is about. So what we do, though, because I want people to be able to share that information with people they meet, is we often will say, every couple of weeks we'll be like, who has a Facebook group? If you have a Facebook group for religion, for politics, for product, for something specific, for women who are divorced, for women who have lost children, for whatever it is, go in those groups too. Because don't think that the moment you think that the community you're building serves everybody all the time, it's just like a business, right? It doesn't work that way.
Absolutely.
When you have a singular focus about the purpose and everybody drives towards that singular focus, then beautiful, magical things happen. The moment you try to please everybody, like, the world falls apart.
So true. People do that with their brands all the time. I'm actually helping a direct sales company, like a group of people from this specific direct sales company, create brands inside of their community. So I'm helping them create Facebook communities for their business, but a lot of them are, they're just so, they've been taught and it's ingrained, like, but I can't have a focus, because if I focus, then I'm going to eliminate all of these other people who won't feel like they can join or buy from me. And having to like get that into their heads. This is like, it's the most important thing I think about building a community, is to have the right people in there and not try to get everybody in there.
Yeah, and we have to remember too, the way we sell products and the way we make friends and the way we, have community there, it's all the same. Like
Mm-hmm.
all the rules and all the best practices are all the same to how we lead our personal life, our romantic life, our friendship life, our family life, our, business life. All those things are all the same. And that's one of them, which is if you let everybody in, then nothing's special.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And when nothing's special, then nothing is respected. And when nothing is respected, then nothing good happens. Right. And when you walk down that trail, you go, God, well, then I have to make something special. How do you make something special? You make it specific. You make it clear.
Mm-hmm.
You make it something that people know what they're getting into and they feel good about getting into it. And they feel like I'm not like everybody else. Like nobody wakes up, like when you're a kid and you wake up in the morning and you go, I want to be exactly what everybody else wants me to be. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we all go through that phase. I pretended I liked wrestling in college to date a guy for 3 months. It happens. It turns out he was only hot enough for 3 months of taking wrestling. However, there is a huge like culture of people who live for wrestling, and they're good people who are awesome. Right. It doesn't happen to be something that I really want to do, but that doesn't mean that that diminishes what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if I tried to hang out in that group, I would make them feel crazy and they would make me feel crazy.
Yep.
Right. So we think that we are taking away by not broadening what we offer, but we're not. What we're doing is accentuating the value of something. And when you accentuate the value, then the people that are experiencing it feel even more special. And what would you rather do? Have a bunch of emojis
Mm-hmm.
for everybody as they experience you? Or would you rather have awesomeness here where people truly have their life changed by you and what you're doing and how they meet in the community that you're creating, right? And that the people that don't fit can go over and find exceptional experiences somewhere else with their people, right? Like if you really think about it, and if you want to change the way you think about communities, if you're the person that thinks you need to do, just tell yourself, wake up in the morning and say, when I try to serve everybody, I'm being selfish. I'm being selfish to think that I am so important that I need to be the answer for everybody. It is a selfish notion. And the moment you let people go and let them find their person, don't be in a relationship just because it's okay, right? Just like in a romantic relationship, set that person free, because if you don't want to marry him, somebody else is going to be they're going to be the best thing that ever happened to them. And you are actually being selfish by holding them with you.
It's that quote, isn't there? That quote, if you love something, set it free. It's kind of like that. And obviously you don't, I mean, maybe you love your community, but if you not trying to appeal to everybody, because it's not, you aren't for everybody. In fact, the people that you repel are just as important as the people that you attract, in my opinion, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like that if you love something, set it free. I feel like the real one is if like you like something a lot, set it free, right? Because if you don't love something enough to sacrifice for it, if you really aren't willing to give up selflessly for something, then you don't love it enough. And my dad used to always tell me, we talk about love, and he would just say, by the way, if love is not equal, then it's not love. He's like, that's what stalking is called. When one person loves something and the other person doesn't, that's called stalking, and it's illegal. And he goes, think of that. Like love is equal. Love is balanced. Love is giving. And there's just like a relationship. And this is, that's why I love like the 5 love languages is so valuable for the way we build teams and the way we build communities, because you're dealing with human beings. You can look at 50,000 plus people in our group, but each one of those people is a human being that is dealing with things that are happening on a daily basis, right? Yeah. And relationships, by definition, is relating. It is relating to each other. And he just said that, like, love is this reciprocal thing. Like, love is something that doesn't just happen in a silo. It is reciprocal, and it needs to be equal against both parties. So when you don't love something as much as they want to love you and get out of you, just like that, how many times have you had people's businesses where they get resentful because they're freaking pouring their heart and soul into their business and they feel like their business isn't loving them back. Right? There's
A
nothing
lot.
worse than being in love with something and having the other person turn to you and be like, yeah, you're okay.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
keep
right.
you around because it's, because I don't want to say no to you. Yeah.
No,
Like learn to say no, everybody. Just Never Split the
oh,
Difference is a great book by
oh my
Chris
gosh.
Voss. He's a FBI agent for, or used to be an FBI agent for hostage negotiation. One of the
Oh,
best books. If you cannot say no to people, read Never Split the Difference. I listen to it on audio tape because it's best if you can hear his tone because he
mm-hmm.
has like the DJ voice and some things,
Yeah.
and he tells you all the methodology for negotiating in a really like good way, in a way that'll make you feel good about yourself, very authentic.
Mm.
Once a year, I listen to that book once a year. It will help you parent, it will help you run your business and your team, it will help you run your community, and it will make you feel better about who you are and what you do because you're not giving up things you don't want to give up, or
Mm.
doing things you don't want to do, or hanging out with people that don't make you feel good, or growing things you don't want to grow, or holding on to people you don't want to hold on to because you just don't want to say no.
A lot of people have that problem. I mean, I had that problem. I think we all start off having that
Everybody.
problem.
I'm pretty sure 100% of people have that
At least,
problem.
at least 100%. Maybe.
There's actually, gosh, I'm reading a finance book, and she talks about an actual study they did where it proves that we are ingrained with that, because basically back in the days when you were hunters and gatherers, right? If your community didn't like you and shunned you, you'd get eaten by like a lion, right? Like if you weren't didn't have the collective community to protect you, we
Mm-hmm.
don't have that anymore. But if we didn't have that collective community to protect you, being out on your own was very dangerous back in the
Mm.
day. So there are these studies they've done to theorize the fact that our brains actually want us to comply because we don't want to be ostracized. Being ostracized
Ah,
means death back in the day,
yeah.
right? And so our brains like give yourself a little permission to feel this way and have a hard time saying no, because our brain naturally wants to comply and appease.
Mm-hmm.
Which, so it means you have to literally shift the way you were naturally born, through evolution to think, because now breaking free is where brands grow. Breaking out and being individual and being different is now where society is leading us as the people that win. And if you want to win and be in a community that grows, run a community that grows, run a brand that grows, you got to break free.
Stand out.
And that's a hard thing to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It is. I know a lot of people pleasers. And honestly, like I said, I used to be the same way. I used to, I mean, with photography, prime example, I could target everyone. I could, and I did at one point. And once I realized, hey, maybe I should just target one person, one
Mm-hmm.
kind of photography, and it blew up. And
Yeah.
that's just how it works. And I've tried to, it's hard to kind of reverse people's, their opinion on that. They think that they're going to be doing more of, I don't want to stop anyone from hiring me. I want everyone to be able to hire me. But it just doesn't work that way. You can't speak to everybody at the same time. You just can't.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is hard. It's hard to shift our beliefs on anything. I mean, that's
Hmm.
that's part of why I believe in community building so much,
Yeah.
because that's where mind shift actually happens. Very rarely is it, that they just either wake up and believe it, or that one person tells them something. My parents used to call it the Schlotsky effect. Did you ever have Schlotsky's? Do they have them out here? It's like a sandwich shop. They used to have them in Texas a lot when I was
Yeah,
in high
I
school.
think they're East Coast.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
mean, they used to have one here, but I know it shut down. Maybe that was the lone Schlotsky's. Anyway, it's a sandwich shop. I was in high school, and I was started to date this boy, and my parents had wanted me to take me to Schlotsky's, and I was like, I don't like sandwiches. I'm not a big sandwich person. I don't want to go. I don't want your Schlotsky's. Stop trying to push this,
Stop
sandwich place
forcing
on
it.
me. Well, of course, then I go on a date with this boy, and he takes me to Schlotsky's because we're in high school. Where else is he going to take me, right?
Dang it.
Takes me to Sasuke's, and I come home and I'm like, oh my gosh, mom, we just went to this place. It is the best place ever. It's called Schlotsky's. It's the most amazing. It really is the most amazing sandwich ever. And yeah, my mom and dad deemed it the Schlotsky effect, which is whenever somebody close to you that you love the most gives you advice and you totally don't listen to them, and then some stranger, or some hot guy comes to you and gives you that advice and you think it's the best advice you've ever received. That's called
Oh
the Schlotsky
my
effect.
gosh.
And that is the thing. Communities help create that Schlotsky effect.
Mm,
Like your mom or your husband or your whoever may be telling you some amazing advice that you should be taking, but you're not because they love you the most. And, they don't really know your
Yes.
space. But when you get to something that's your space and all of a sudden somebody or two or three people come and they're like, well, you should do it this way. And you're like, well, that is really good advice.
You're
I feel
right.
like I should do that. Right. And then that's when your husband looks at you and you're like, I've said that for like 3 years.
Yeah, I've
It's a
had that.
soft
I've had that
effect.
happen. I've had that happen a few times.
But the communities are so important because if you create the right community, you will actually get more sales because collectively that community works in your favor to
Absolutely.
shift the belief system of your audience to believe in what you believe. And therefore that trust is there that what you're doing is the right thing to do. And so a community can be your marketing system.
Mm-hmm.
Like grassroots marketing, that's what it is that's what I like Mark Schaefer in his marketing rebellion book. He says like every one of your customers, every one of your community members, they are your sales team.
Mm,
And if you thought of it that way, what would they be saying about you? How are you
so
arming them?
true.
And how are you creating a community and a space that raises them up so that you aren't paying a sales rep? You don't have to pay anybody to grow, right?
Absolutely.
But there's a reciprocal relationship. There's still something, that reciprocity that's happening because you're raising them up and they're raising you up. And it's a beautiful, beautiful
Yeah, you get
double
to
rainbow
that
sort of
point where
situation.
you have 50,000 people in your group, and all you have to be like is, "Hey, I made this new course. What do you think?" And then everybody's like, "Ah, I'm gonna love it," and then everybody talks about it for you. It
It
is.
does
It's
work. Now, granted, I've been doing this for years, so
yes,
we've honed in on it. But yeah, I
yes.
mean, we teach a lot of the methodology that is how can you be a leader
Mm-hmm.
and a business owner at the same time? How can
Mm-hmm.
you do both of those things? And we've created a methodology for that where you can be both roles. And yeah, I mean, we are now. I had to hire like a very specific person. I used to have my executive assistant do it. Now we had to have a dedicated person because sometimes we're getting 200 people a day asking to join the group.
Oh
That's like
wow.
hours of somebody
Yeah.
going through because we don't want to let everybody in.
Mm-hmm.
We only let like 60% of the people that apply in because we can tell that they don't have good intentions, right? Like I'm the dad, with the sitting on the porch, and depending on what kind of, what your belief system is, I've got a shotgun or a Bible or or an angry look on my face or whatever it is that in your family your dad joked about having when you brought a boy to the house. That's who I am.
Same
I'm the
thing.
mama
Yeah,
bear.
the same thing.
Yeah.
The
What are
gun.
your intentions
Yeah.
with my community? Because if they are not good, I will kick you out so fast. And protecting your community is one of the other things.
Oh
Like you
yeah.
create boundaries, and that second one is protect. I protect my women. It doesn't mean I don't piss people off sometimes, because in protecting, you can't protect them without pissing somebody off.
Yeah.
But the amount of women that would tell you I delete something and they message me about it, and then I said, well, tell me, let's talk through how you could have rephrased that. And I help them engage in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me feel really good about how we run the community, even though I know it doesn't make everybody happy, but you protect like crazy. Because if you want people to feel safe and trust you, right, then you have to prove that you are willing to sacrifice being loved all the time to keep people safe.
So
And whatever that means for your community. For us, it means that they can share ideas and thoughts, and they know they can come to this space and think tank and not be judged and not have negative energy and all of those things.
do you like, was this something that you always did, or did you just kind of make that shift? Like, okay, we need to really make sure that that everybody that's coming into the group is the right person to be into the group. Like in the beginning, because this is a lot of people's issue as well with building groups. They're like, oh, but I want to let everybody in. Anybody that wants to come in, just let them in. But that's something that I've gone through as well. You have to make sure that the people that are in there are the right people, that they're going to engage, that they're going to resonate with the content. So is this something you started in the beginning or kind of shifted because you realized, okay, that's important?
No, we started from the beginning. I have
Good.
very, very, okay. So when you have an email list, right? The way an email list system, like a CRM kind of system, works is the more people you have on the list, the more you pay, right? Because it takes more energy, more resources, more space, right? So do you want to pay more, right? And I'm talking metaphorically too. Like right now we're talking about, but metaphorically, would you want to pay more so that you can tell people you've got 10,000 people on your list when only 2,000 of those people are actually the right people, right? And the way that I like this example because it's clear cut.
Yes.
But the way that that adversely affects you is the 8,000 people that are the wrong people of that 10,000 person list. Those people aren't opening emails. Now all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden your deliverability is down. Some of them may say they don't like you, in which case, if you have too much of those, of unsubscribes, of people complaining, you can get blacklisted altogether, right? So you
Oh.
start to see that a number isn't helpful for you, right? It
Mm-hmm.
actually costs you more in a lot of ways. Same thing with group members. You want to grow slow with the right people, because growing slow now, so in our Nurture to Convert Society membership, we have three kind of levels that you can reach now, which is movement, momentum, and velocity. So I tell
Mm-hmm.
people movement is when you're doing the pushing.
Yeah.
So in a group instance, when you're growing your group, you're doing the pushing. You feel like you're posting, you feel like you're outreaching, you've got to call in favors. It feels like you're pushing up a hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you move into the momentum phase, the way we teach you to grow a group, and pretty much everything else that you would do, is the momentum is where people are starting to push with you. You've got people with you. They're engaging, they're priming the algorithm for you. You don't feel like you have to be there all the time. It doesn't take as much work to get things done. When you get into the velocity stage, there is no stopping you. You're
Mm-hmm.
rolling downhill and the ball just keeps getting bigger, right? Because you created this momentum that is scalable. And,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people, the next book I'm going to write is going to be called, for next year, it's going to be called The Momentum Trap. Because what people do is they get caught in this momentum trap, right? Where they don't create anything scalable from what they've learned. So they're
Mm-hmm.
pushing up the hill, but those people fall off eventually. So they constantly have to rally people to help them push up the hill instead of
Yep.
creating something that has its own velocity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's something that people get then burnt out. That's why you create a Facebook group and somebody gets to 50,000 and they all of a sudden shut it down because they can't take it anymore, right?
Yeah.
That's because what they did is they grew something that it revolved around them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's one of the big things everybody has to understand is a group does not revolve around you. Like there's I feel like I'm mentioning a ton of books, but anyway, one of my other favorite books is I've had a lot of time.
That's good. I know, right? We all have.
But The Prophet by Khalil Gibran is one of my favorites, and it's not a real religious book. It's basically a book about a fiction book about a prophet who's leaving to go home to his homeland, and everybody in the town gathers. It's really short. Everybody in the town gathers, and they ask the prophet questions about life. And so it's like 1 or 2 pages of all different, like family, marriage, kids, that kind of thing. My dad gave it to me when I went to college. And the thing about kids is that it says you are the bow and they are the arrow. You cannot follow where your children go, right? The only thing that you can do is be steady so that you are able to send your children swift and far. And my dad inscribed it, may you go swift and far.
Aww.
And then when I give that book as a gift a lot of times because I love it. It's like a little just handbook that you can go to. And it talks about love. And it talks about love being that if you can't take all of the pain with all of the pleasure of love, if you can't be enveloped in in an angel's wings, knowing that there may be thorns under there, then you will never laugh all your laughter and cry all your tears, right? And that you will never know true experience if you don't embrace both. So when I send it to people, I inscribe it, may you laugh all your laughter and cry all your tears. That's like the inscription for it.
That's so cool.
But that book is really amazing because when you're thinking about your community, right? When you're thinking about your community, you just can't be the center. You can't be the bow and the arrow, right? The goal of a community is that everybody there outgrows you. Like your fondest hope is that you do so well about building the community that they actually they grow beyond you and they start their own communities, right? Oh, I've got my neighbor's daughter is here and she's knocking in there. I'm on a call. So I'm like, I can't talk.
Yeah, it's like raising kids. You can't expect to be around all the time. You have to just prime them enough that they're gonna go ahead and live their lives.
Yeah, you want to arm them. You want to arm people, right? So that's the thing, is they shouldn't depend upon you, right? You want to give them the tools that it's the same thing in the community. My goal isn't for everybody to walk around and be like, that wear pins with my face on it, right?
Yeah.
The goal is for somebody to do something amazing. And then when they sit down and think about how it happened, I was a part of that journey.
Yep.
Absolutely. Right? I'm not the center. I'm not the center of anything. Nobody's the center of anything. And honestly, that's a lot of burden we put on ourselves to be the answer. You're not the answer. Stop trying to be the answer and start being the facilitator. I think the moment
Ooh,
we all look
dropping
at a
bombs.
community as being a facilitator, the moment we start to recognize that everybody else brings their own magic, we just create the boundaries and the rules and the support and the protection. And when you do that, then people are able to raise up and they thank you for it. And that's where I think the real binding part of the community happens, that loyalty part.
So when's your TED talk then?
But
That
funny
sounded like
story
a
about a
TED
TED
talk.
talk. When I first quit my job, the TED they were doing like TED auditions for the one in Columbus, Ohio, and I was like 7 months pregnant,
Yeah.
and I went and I memorized this whole thing about teaching wisdom in school for our children. That there
Mm.
was this like I found it later on. I was like, wow, I still believe all these things. Anyway, I go up and I'm 7 months pregnant and I tried to memorize the whole thing, practice the whole day. And like 4 lines in, completely forget what I'm supposed to say.
Oh.
And if anybody's seen me speak, like I'm a natural like up on stage. But it was the day that not only did I horrifyingly embarrass myself, but it was also the day I realized that trying to memorize things is just not the way my brain works. So there's a lot of times where I create an outline and in the shower the day before, I decide a story I'm going to tell, and I
Yep.
just have a brain that when I get up on stage, I want to create a framework. Just like the same thing with community, I create boundaries for myself and I create a framework of what the idea I want to share is.
Hmm.
But then I give myself freedom, and I have the kind of extroverted personality where that works for me. But yeah, I've totally tried out for a TED talk
That's
way back
awesome.
in
We got
2013,
to do it again.
failed
Got
miserably.
to do it again. You won't fail this time. You will not fail this time. That you had
Oh my
baby
God.
brain.
You don't
Just
want to
blame
see
the
a seven
children.
month pregnant woman just stand up there like, I don't remember what I'm supposed
Everybody's
to
like,
say.
"Oh,
Oh
this
my
is
God.
awkward."
It was bad. It was bad.
So,
Oh,
before we go, just tell everybody about this you have a community building training or course right now. Tell everybody about that. It's
I
awesome.
do. I do. It's super awesomely named. It's called How to Start and Grow Your Own Facebook Group.
I think that's it's important, okay? It's very straight to the point.
Oh no, when you sell products, you start to recognize that SEO works in your favor when you use words that other people use.
Yes. Yes.
um, and when you get to the point where I don't want to spend time trying to be clever. I want to spend time actually helping people and making money while I do it.
Yep.
And that's a trade-off, right?
Ideal.
Stephen King, my dad always brought me up saying Stephen King's favorite phrase is, you kill your darlings. So anything you think is brilliant, it's too close to you. Nobody else is going to get it. You kill it. I'm always wrong about the picture I like for my books. I'm always wrong about the name of things. I'm always wrong. I'm always wrong. I know it. Whatever I think is the best is always wrong. And that
So
doesn't mean
funny.
I'm not smart or brilliant or any of those things.
Mm.
It just means that I love it. Like love is blind. And that is
Yep.
particularly true for your business and your products and your community. Love is blind. That means whatever is the best or the most important or the most valuable, you can't see it because you think it's too pretty already. Like
I
it
love
can't do
that.
any wrong. And that doesn't
That's
ever
so
work. So
funny.
yeah, super simple name. That was my random rant. Yeah, we have it's just boss-mom.com/Facebook group. And it's $47. So
Cheap.
we like to make
Easy.
everything as accessible as possible. And that's our boss mom methodology. So yeah, we've gotten oh my gosh, I just took a screenshot of somebody in in the Facebook group that just said that she just did it a couple weeks, and it's like the engagement in her group is blown up.
It's awesome.
And yeah, because we use what we call a permission sandwiches.
Mm-hmm.
And then we use a buzz plan. So the way we help you pull things together is we help you create permission of belonging so that we tell you you're brave, not crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We show you clout, which says, hey, I'm somebody you should listen to. Then we give you training that says the things that I say are applicable to you and are things that you can get. What we say is you fill a gap or give a hack, right? And those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then we actually do recommend things for you. So I show you that I care not just about myself, but things outside of myself, and we can connect and relate to each other. And then I ask, so I'm actually asking you to do things or buy things or opt into things. And then a feedback loop, so I actually care about your opinion.
Yeah.
So we have all of those things and we do that with your email list too, right? Through what we train. And then the buzz is saying that I need for you to have on your brain whatever it is I'm going to do in the future. So if I'm going to sell you something about how to grow a Facebook group, then I'm going to be talking and asking questions and creating conversation around Facebook groups and the value of Facebook groups and why they're the most important thing now, right?
Yes.
So if you were going to come out with a weight loss program or a marketing thing or whatever it is, whatever you're selling, you have to start creating buzz in your group to create the conversation. It would, in true marketing, they call it an awareness campaign, right? You got to start creating the conversation so that your group starts to, when you come out with something, your group goes, I've been thinking about that. Deanna, how did you know I was thinking about that? It's like you always know what I'm thinking. And it's like, well, because I'm helping you think those things.
I did that
in an authentic way.
Yeah, I did that with my cell series too. Like, just started kind of, hey, your photos are really important, and blah blah blah. So it's important, and I think a lot of people skip that step. Honestly,
Oh, most people, even people that make a lot of money, skip that step. They go straight to Facebook ads and paid and stuff. And I think there's a lot of people that could be making a lot more margins, because they don't. There's millions of people out there that want to share their opinion and experience things and want to be connectors and tell people about you. People love to recommend things.
Absolutely.
So be something worthy of being recommended, whether it's your community or what you sell or what you do or who you are. And it makes life a lot easier.
It's true. So where can people follow, find, and stalk you? Where can we stalk
love a good
you?
stalking.
I love it.
boss-mom.com. Basically it shows you everything. So it gives you our free resources. It'll get you to the Facebook group. It'll get you to the Boss Mom podcast. It'll get you to all our resources. Actually, now that I'm saying that out loud, I don't think we have our Facebook. Actually, maybe we do. Maybe I updated it. I don't know. I don't update my own website. So whatever is there, I'm sure is awesome.
And you're really good at branding across the platforms too. So it's very obvious that if it's her thing, it's her thing. You could tell.
Well, I've been working really hard to be on everybody's like to be visible by being interviewed. So I love doing this. This is to me, one of the best marketing tactics you can do. The guy who manages my podcast, Matt Johnson, wrote a book called Micro Famous, and he literally talks about this is the #1 marketing tool. And I 100% agree. This is how I've grown Boss Mom. Absolutely. So all you have to do is Google Boss Mom, and it's not even my name. You could Google Boss Mom, and it's about 10 pages deep. If you Google my name, it's like 20 pages deep, where it is really hard to not find me.
I'm definitely going to be using Boss Mom and Dana Malstaff as my SEO help on YouTube for sure. Just throw that in there. But we will post all of the links below too for anybody that's listening and wants to go follow. I have a lot of moms in my group as well, so we're going to push them over there. And I really, really appreciate you hanging out with me today, and let's do it again soon.
Yeah, actually, thanks for having me. This was a blast.
Of course.